What's up, fam? Welcome back to Obsidian Texts and Tangents. It's your girl, Sherry, and I am here to tell you about my July wrap-up. So, if you watch my July TBR video, you know that I was reading for the readEHthon and pre-gaming for the readEHthon, the Canadian readathon, that Injuri over at Onyx Pages is a co-host for. Because I had got the dates wrong. But I don't care, and I'm counting it anyways. Okay, great. So, first of all, y'all, I had a new plant. Their name is X, and they're non-binary, and they're aloe tree, and I got it from Trader Joe's. Also, as always, we have tea on deck. This is a ginger tea, and unlike usual, I actually finished heating up the water before I got started recording. Then, I have regular water because I be thirsty. Staying hydrated. Anyways, the TBR actually went quite well. I got through most of the things I wanted to read by July 31st, which was surprising for me because I don't tend to include as many works in my what I'm planning on reading for the month, aka TBR. So yeah, I was surprised at how well it went, which I think is what made me so ambitious for next month, but we'll get to that in that video. So also, I know for a fact that the comic books helped that along quite nicely. So I finished 6 works in total for July. I'm going to start with the 2 that also covers the readathon. I meant to write down which prompts they covered for the fuckathon too. Okay, hold on. Okay, so first we read The Game of Desire, 5 Surprising Secrets to Dating with Dominance by Shan Boodram. Shan Boodram is a Canadian certified sexologist and intimacy coach who has Guyanese and Dominican heritage and is actually quite sought after sex educator on the internet. She has a very large YouTube and Instagram following, and now she has a show on Quibi. I did not know who Shan Boodram was until a bit before I read the book. The book was recommended to me by a friend who really wanted me to read it and get my opinion on it and whatnot. And so they had shared content with me by Shan Boodram on Instagram before I read the book. Anyways, the book is basically a how-to guide targeting young women in the modern dating landscape that is filled with all these apps like Tinder and that aren't getting the dating results that they want. So in the book, Shan works with a small group of women who are very frustrated in their dating lives to help them improve their dating experience and get the connections and the relationships that they are actually seeking. So one thing, I'm going to give you a thing that I liked and a thing that I didn't like about the books and maybe a quote or something. So for The Game of Desire, I'm probably going to do a full review, so I'll leave a lot of my more in-depth thoughts on the book out of this TBR. But my 2 biggest pet peeves with the book are definitely pet peeves for me as an individual. In reading the book, I know I'm not the target demographic for who this book was written for. So these are pet peeves for me. They may not be as important for other people who connect more with this book. And so one of those things is that it is very cis-het. It is very cis-het female looking for a cis-het male. And again, it's also quite young. It's definitely geared towards younger, and I would say mid-20s to mid-30s is really the range, which I fall into that range, but that's definitely the specific range that it's written for. There is a character, or I shouldn't call them characters because these were real people. There is a woman that Shan worked with in her small group of women who doesn't identify as heterosexual, but also there's a lot of very clearly Shannon being introduced to some of those concepts and what that actually means and how to navigate those spaces within this book. Things that I can think of that are also very elementary things that you experience when you are in an LGBTQ plus environment. So I definitely think this was some of the first experiences that she had with that, and it shows. Honestly, it shows. It's very narrow in that way, and I think it may be hard for some people who are reading it who don't identify as that to gain some positives out of it. But I do think there are positives. The other thing that really bothered me about the book is that there is a section in the book where Shan talks about the Kinsey scale. If you don't know what the Kinsey scale is, please Google it. It is a scale that kind of relates to sexuality. It has its flaws, but it's a very common scale and like quiz and stuff that people take and use as a way to help describe or define sexuality. That being said, the definitions that were written in the book for asexuality and demisexuality are literally wrong. Like, it's definitions, right? So it should be like the actual definition, and the actual definition is just patently incorrect. So that bothers me because it's not right. And I'm just like, how did this get all the way through publishing? Nobody caught that the definitions are incorrect. So still bothered by that. Just on a like, one, because given who this book is targeted to and is written for, this may be some people's first introduction to the terms themselves ever. And second, because of that, these terms are wrong, so they still don't know what it is or what it means. But anyways, okay, so those are two of my biggest problems with the book. A really positive thing about the book, though, and something that I think would benefit everyone, is that it really encourages introspection and knowing yourself as the basis of how you move through your dating experience and your life in general. So I think for people who are introspective, it can be a cool exercise to think about some of the things specifically that Shannon poses, if you haven't before, and if you have, to try to think about them more in depth. And for those people who are not quite as introspective, this may raise some questions and things for you to think about in a way that is very approachable. So I'm always a fan of introspection. So I'm out here for that. I'm here for that. When it comes to this book, I just want to leave you with one quote about it, which is, be the person you've always wanted to be in the company of people who excite you. Again, be the person you've always wanted to be in the company of people who excite you, which I think is just a great goal in general to have. So yes. Oh, also, I'm gonna have to, the editing is gonna be so real. So the Game of Desire covered a couple of prompts. So for the readEHthon, it covered the something that's not a novel, a book by a Black author, red on the cover, and in my opinion, a story about a loving relationship, because it, for the most part, centers a loving relationship with yourself. So that's 4 prompts out of the readEHthon with this one book that I did. And for the eHthon, which actually took place in July, I'm using it for the F slut shaming prompt because it is very sex positive, and especially when it comes to women, obviously, because it's very centered in the cis female experience. A couple variations of that. Anyways, so Got it. The next book I read was Bell Hooks. Bell Hooks is a Black feminist and social activist whose writing has focused on the interconnectivity of race, class, and gender. Skin Again is a children's book, and it was so cute, y'all. The artistry, the illustrations in it are so nice. So the children book encourages looking beyond the skin to understand who a person really is. One like negative point about it is that it does have a very simplistic message. The message is so simplistic that it doesn't consider any of the systematic or structural systems that actually impact how race and skin color influences how people are treated at a systemic level and not just at an individual level. Again, so that's a negative, but it's also the positive because it is a children's book, right? So it's a very easy message, I think, to explore. It's a very easy message to it's a very easy message to explore with children, especially when you are teaching them how to treat people at an individual level, right? So for that, it was also very good. That's just not the level in which I'm operating right now, so it was a little frustrating for me. But again, I'm also not the target demographic. See, I was just not the target demographic for both of these first ones. Anyways, I read this book for the readEHthon, and this is, of course, for F White Supremacy Prompt. So that is a 2 down. Okay, so next up is the fact that I read volumes 6 through 9 of Saga. And let me tell you, I started reading Saga in 2019, pretty early in 2019, and read 1 through 6, volumes 1 through 6 by like mid-year. And then I had a lot of things going on, and I was checking them out from the library, and the library didn't have them. All this business was going on. So I basically had not read Saga in a year. So when I went back to reread it, I actually reread volume 6, which I'd already previously read, and then read through the rest of them, which was a great idea. So I'm definitely going to be doing a video on Saga, like a review wrap-up type of situation. I don't know how it's going to look exactly, but it's going to exist because I'm obsessed with this comic book series and it made me distraught. Okay, so anyways, Saga, all of the volumes, also apply to the readEHthon, the Canadian book-a-thon that I mentioned earlier, which actually takes place August 3rd through the 9th, but I pre-gamed and I'm still counting them because Fiona Staples, the illustrator, is Canadian. So anyways, Saga is written by Brian K. Vaughan and illustrated by Fiona Staples. It's an American-Canadian duo, and if you don't know about Saga, you should probably go ahead, open another browser, don't exit out of my video, open another browser, Google Saga Volume 1, buy it, rent it out from the library electronically, something, because you need to just go on and grace yourself with that, okay? So Saga basically is about a couple who are fugitives because they are both were soldiers on opposite sides of a war that has gone on for centuries between their homelands. One is a planet, one is a moon, and they have fled, they've gotten married, and they have had a child. None of this is a spoiler because this all happens in like page 1 of volume 1. So the premise of the comic series is that they are fugitives on the run from both factions, and both factions are trying to kill them. And also it's told from the perspective of the child that gets born in volume 1. So it is fantastic. It's just fantastic, y'all. Like, trust me on this. It's great. So for volume 1, some major ish is jumping off, okay? And it's just like as a result of some ish that happened in volume 5, okay? So did I say volume 1? So in volume 6, there's some major ish jumping off as a result of the stuff that was happening in volume 5. There is some great commentary on schools, as Hazel is now school age and is starting kindergarten. And there is a great quote in the volume that goes something like this: "Every school is dangerous. Teachers always promise that students are in a safe place, but most of us figure out that's a lie pretty fast." And I think it has very salient points, especially in our time where school-based violence and school-based mass shootings are so prevalent. Yeah, so that's a little bit about volume 6. I'm gonna give you just teasers for these. So volume 7, I got a little notebook. Volume 7 has so the whole thing, there's a war going on, right? Through the whole thing. So there has been great commentary on violence throughout. The perpetrators of violence, when is it necessary? Is it ever necessary? The effects of violence on women, children's, planets, worlds, cultures. There's a lot of commentary on violence that I think in war that I think is very, very salient and fantastic. Honestly, everyone should read this comic book series. It is rated, I would rate it MA. Like if this was on TV, I would rate it MA for mature audiences only. So please no one get this for your young child. It is not child friendly. Obviously, I just talked about war and violence, but also there's a lot of like sexual content in it and language. But anyways, so there's a couple of funny ish. Okay. So one funny thing that happens is that one of the characters comes rushing out of their room to talk to Alana and Marco, who are the two main characters, and they're like, "What have you sex criminals ruined this time?" And it's so funny because to reduce their like fugitive status down to being sex criminals is kind of petty, but on the other hand, it's also very true at its most simplistic state, because like that's why everyone's after them, is because they have gotten together and they have produced this child. So it's funny. The other thing I wanted to share was this quote about violence. So it goes a little something like this: "A violence is like a venereal disease. It burrows deep and flares up again and again to hurt others until the day it consumes its host." And that's not verbatim, but that's basically what it said. And it actually makes me very worried about one of the characters. And that worry was justified. It didn't turn out to be in the way that I thought it was going to be, but it was very justified. Volume 8. Oh, volume 8 started so heavy. Like, it started heavy, which was albeit like it was a must because of how volume 7 ended, but it also was not great. Okay, so one of the quotes that are in volume 8 that I really liked is when one of the characters, it's Hazel, and she's narrating, says there are few things more challenging than a sequel. And I think that's true on a lot of levels for a lot of reasons, especially in particular in the story and the context of which it was being stated. So there's that. Then we have volume 9. Volume 9 still has me pretty upset. There were so many ways in which several things could have gone wrong, and yet the way that it actually went wrong, I didn't quite expect until it happened. Until like right before it happened. And even then, I didn't think it was going to be as severe or permanent as it seems to be. I really need volume 10 to be a thing that's happening for my life, because this just doesn't sit well with me. Yeah, it's distressing. I am distraught. That's all I'm going to say about volume 9. Saga as a whole, I read so as a whole I mean volume 6 through 9. I read for the readEHthon specifically as well. So readEHthon, blah, 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 blah. So Saga's readEHthon, like, prompts. So Saga's readEHthon bingo prompts that it covers is F book elitism, because it is a comic book series. F slut shaming, because if you've read it, you know that that's a thing. F with yourself, because I really wanted to read this. Like Saga, I'm just obsessed with it, so that's 100% why I wanted to read it right now. And honestly, I think an argument could be made for Saga as a whole, and yes, these books being F capitalism, because of the themes that are explored, especially around the capitalist nature of war. So those are the ones I think it goes for. Definitely makes that F, I think, which was the goal for the bingo. And yeah, so I'm really proud of myself for the readEHthon prompts I got through the readEHthon pre-gaming that I did, that I'm counting and will be talking about again. And whenever I talk about the readEHthon again, I'm just going to sandwich those 2 books onto that, because I'm like, look, it counts, okay? I'm counting it because I can do what I want. I'm grown. Then, okay, so if you watch my TBR video, you know that Kindred and Water Dancer, which are behind me, were supposed to get started in July. For Kindred, I actually decided I wanted to read the graphic novel adaptation, because I've read the novel prose version already, and I want to read the graphic novel, and I want to own the graphic novel. So it is supposed to be getting shipped to me. Hopefully it comes in the next week or so I can read through it before the Octavia E. Butler Slow Read Kindred event, which is on September 27th, if I'm not mistaken. And then for Water Dancer, I just didn't have the time to get to it, so I'm actually starting it in August, and I will be buddy reading it with a couple people, so it will definitely get started, if not finished. My August TBR is kind of ambitious, but it should be good. And then the only other thing that was on my TBR for July is How to Be a Werewolf, which is a webcomic. And I will be reading that. I will be reading it. I might make a vlog while I'm doing it, but as of right now, it's not on my August TBR because I think I'm just going to read it at whatever pace I feel like it. And whenever I feel like it. So, okay. So that was July. I'm going to start this one in the graphic novel adaptation of this one in August. Hopefully, I hope it comes in the mail. Let me know if any of you have read any of the books that I read this month. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, comment down below. I have check out my description box always, and there's always like links to other stuff that I may have mentioned or booktubers that I may have mentioned, and there's always Black Lives Matter movement links in the link down in the description box below. So go and support, because we still out here trying to live and being Black. So yeah, it was great. Thanks for watching, y'all, and I'll see you soon. Bye.